Hello, I'm Monica Kostrick.
I'm Joel Licky, and we're presenting our final presentation for the semester on Pictos.
Pictos is a CAM software for CNC machines, if you don't remember this.
So basically it allows you to draw shapes in the computer without needing to deal with the difficulties associated with CAD, such as dimensioning things, properly constraining things. So you can just draw like you'd draw in Paint without any knowledge of anything, make shapes, get it to look the way you want it to, and click a button and it will make G-code that would then be able to be run on a CNC machine without destroying it.
So progress so far, it can finally make G-code out of whatever shapes you've drawn. Specifically lines, rectangles, squares, and circles and arcs, sort of.
So when it does these shapes, it's unoptimized. It doesn't find the shortest path across. It doesn't cut in the correct direction necessarily. So when you make a cut with a CNC machine, you should cut in one direction or the opposite direction, depending on what your end mill is designed for. So it doesn't do that, but it does make shapes and it does cut them, and it won't break the machine unless you try really hard to make it do that. Like X. Currently it doesn't have any limits on the canvas size, so you can theoretically, and actually by default it starts out with a canvas that is something like 4 times 10 to the 20th inches by. Yeah, so unless you try and don't resize it, you'll end up with something really big, because it doesn't give you dimensions by default. It will look nice and small on your screen and then be many miles when you go So this is something we've been working on. It's not fully implemented yet. It sort of works. It doesn't really have a user interface, but it allows you to put in different 3D profiles. And this is sort of an idea of what we meant by a 3D profile. It's a shape that will be cut rather than just cutting like a slot in the material. You draw a line and it will cut this profile, even if it means making multiple paths, multiple passes with a tool, or using multiple different tools. Now these are just standard router profiles, and for doing wood, this is the kind of thing that you would likely use. So for a sign, you might want letters that have this sort of edge, and you would just select this tool when you do text on it, and when you cut it, it will look like, the 3D profile of it will look like this rather than just being a line engraved into the material. So what isn't done at this point that we were hoping would be done is limiting brushes to what you actually have available. So you can select something, and it will make G-code for it, even if you don't have the tools to support it. And ideally, there's going to be an inventory that basically you put in what you have, and it will only give you options that you can make. And lithopanes currently aren't possible, but that's going to eventually be an option. And then bug fixes,
fix the zoom.
like zooming in and out. Currently, if you zoom while panning, your coordinates will get confused, and it will look fine until you save it and open it again, and then it won't look fine. So it's going to be continued this summer, not actually as an RCOS project, but I'm going to continue updating the group on its progress during my other presentations for RCOS. So hopefully these things that weren't done will be done by the end of the summer, and it'll be a much more polished product. Yeah.
Would there be a way to prioritize, like I want to cut this path before some other path?
Definitely, yeah.
I've done like CNC routing before, and depending on which order of like cuts you make, sometimes your part can become very like
it can like detach and move around. Yeah, that's actually the only way it works right now. You basically have layers where each layer gets its own item, its own shape, and you can put them in whatever order you want, and it will obviously look the same on the screen, but it will determine the order the G-code is written in and the order it will be cut in.
What's a lithopane?
Okay, so lithopane is basically, I could find a picture of one. They look, maybe I can, if I have a mouse. Maybe I don't. Well, I'm not sure where my mouse is. Never mind, it's like mirrored on this screen. So a lithopane is basically a somewhat opaque piece of like white plastic, for example, This is a very small picture. So you take an image and you carve into a piece of opaque plastic that allows some light, like translucent. And the depth you cut will allow different amounts of light to pass through. So when you backlight this piece of plastic, you'll then end up with a grayscale image. And you can do kind of cool things with it. It was just an idea we had when we initially proposed the project. And really there is no software that is integrated with other CAM functionality that does that. So the idea would be you could have a lithopane, but then also do other cuts on the same thing in the same G-code file.
So whenever you're cutting like a rectangle or a square, anything with corners from the inside of something, you can actually get a nice corner using a mill. And what you do is you add like a little circle on the end so that the drill bit goes out. I find adding those circles to be really, really annoying. Do you think that you'll just have a button that'll let you add those? Because that would be really useful.
So you mean like an inside cut? So if you have a sheet and you want to cut a square out of the center?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you obviously won't have it end up looking like a square because you'll have little circles missing from the corners. It can do that currently depending on whether you have it set to cut on the inside or the outside of the line. And
because like what we're trying to do now is we're trying to build a pick in place, and you have to center the board in the corner. But if the corners
if it's
are
rounded,
they're
yeah.
just like, okay, you can't get a square into a circle.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That isn't actually. I thought you meant side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see why not. And that would probably be a useful feature.
And you can move your mill into the lab. You just can't use it yet.
Okay.
So what happened to, you are going to open source the milling machine construction, right?
That hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen eventually. I haven't had a lot of time this semester for sitting around with a pair of calipers and just making measurements of lots of chunks of aluminum. But I have a mostly complete CAD file of the entire